All right, let's talk about something a little weird. You probably remember that Disney cartoon from the 2000s, The Replacements, right? Super lighthearted, fun show. But what if I told you there's this really elaborate online theory that paints it in well, a much, much darker light? Let's get into it.
So, what if that fun little show you remember wasn't just entertainment? What if it was actually a cover for something way more sinister? I mean, that's the whole idea behind the Fleamco conspiracy, a theory that says the entire show was basically a psychological operation hiding in plain sight.
Okay, so first, a quick refresher on the show's official plot. You've got two orphans, Todd and Riley, who stumble upon this weird ad in a comic book. They send it in, and bam, they're suddenly adopted by this daredevil stuntman, Dick Daring, and a British super spy, Agent K. On top of that, the company Fleamco gives them a phone that can instantly replace any adult they don't like. Seems like a pretty standard kid's power fantasy, right?
While this is exactly where the theory starts to peel back the curtain. People who believe this stuff argue that if you really look at how the show works, that innocent little fantasy starts to look less like a fantasy and more like a blueprint for something else.
The whole show hangs on this really bizarre idea. A kid makes one phone call, and poof, a person is just gone. Erased. And the craziest part? No one else in their world remembers the original person ever existed. It's like a total, seamless reprogramming of reality.
So here's the big question. Is this all just a fun little what-if for kids? Or, like the theory suggests, is it actually showing us something way more disturbing? Could this entire show be a model for a huge experiment in psychological manipulation, with kids right at the center of it all?
To really get this theory, we have to look at the company that's pulling all the strings. Fleamco. Yeah, on the surface, it seems like some quirky service for children, but the theory argues it's not acting like a business at all. It's acting like some kind of ghost agency.
Theorists point out some pretty strange things. Like, Fleamco has no known address, no public records, no board of directors, yet it seems to have agents all over the world. It can just whip up new identities out of thin air, and, let's be real, erase people from existence and from memory. That doesn't really sound like a toy company, does it? It sounds a lot more like a black-budget intelligence operation.
And that brings us to the absolute heart of the conspiracy, which followers have given this very clinical-sounding name, the psychogenic displacement theory. This is where the whole thing tries to connect itself to some real-world, super shady concepts.
So the theory is all based on this term, psychogenic displacement. It's pitched as this hypothetical idea for controlling and changing the memories and behaviors of a group of people. I mean, think of it like a next-generation MKUltra, that infamous CIA mind control program, but instead of using drugs, it's using social engineering and technology. The theory is that the cartoon isn't just a story, it's a public demonstration of this very idea. So you've got two totally different ways of looking at the show. On the one hand, yeah, it's wish fulfillment. Kids get what they want, simple. But according to the conspiracy, it's actually something called predictive programming, a media tactic meant to get us all used to the idea that people, especially authority figures, can just be substituted, erased, and forgotten.
Now let's really get into the weeds and look at the so-called evidence from the show that people point to. They argue none of this symbolism is an accident. It's all a bunch of clues hiding right there in front of us.
Let's break this down. First, the mascot is a flea. Think about it, a parasite. Sure, it's cute and it's wearing a suit, but its entire nature is to infest and live off a host. Kind of creepy. Second, the replacements themselves. They just show up instantly and have this total, unquestioned authority. And third, and this is a big one, the memory wipe works on everyone except for Todd and Riley. Why are they the only ones who remember?
And that observation leads theorists to a pretty chilling conclusion. You know how in any science experiment you've got your variables and then you have your control group? Well, if Todd and Riley are the only ones who remember the reality-altering changes, the theory says they aren't just kids having fun. They are the control group. They're the ones being watched.
So what about the adoptive parents then? The theory says, forget parents, they're handlers. Dick Daring, the stuntman, is just pure chaos. He represents controlled demolition. He's the agent of chaos. Then you have Agent K, the spy. She's the complete opposite, totally emotionless, hyper-logical. She perfectly fits the archetype of an MKUltra handler, the detached clinical person who manages the subjects and keeps the experiment on track. They're not there to love them, they're there to control.
All of this stuff builds up to the deepest and, honestly, the most unsettling part of the whole theory, the idea that the entire world of the replacements isn't even real. It's actually a super advanced simulation.
And this is where things get really, really wild. The theory connects the show's whole premise to a real-world concept, SimSoc, which stands for Simulated Society. This is the kind of project you hear about from agencies like DARPA, the military's Advanced Research Division. They create these synthetic environments to model how humans act or even to train AI. So the idea here is that the show isn't just a story, it's a depiction of one of these tests.
If you believe the theory, then every single episode follows this strict three-step experimental protocol. Step 1, remove an authority figure. Step 2, insert a new programmed replacement. Step 3, observe the fallout, the ripple effects on the test subjects, Todd and Riley. The entire plot of the show, episode after episode, becomes a repeating scientific procedure.
And now we're at the very end of the rabbit hole, and maybe the creepiest piece of this entire puzzle. It's all about that Fleamco phone number and what supposedly happened when people in our world actually tried to call it.
So, the story goes, according to some old posts on deep web forums and internet message boards, a few curious fans actually tried dialing the numbers they saw in the cartoon. This is where the theory shifts from analyzing the show to becoming more of an urban legend.
And as you'd probably guess, most of these people said they heard nothing. Just a dead line or maybe some faint static. I mean, that's what you'd expect, right? You call a fake number from a cartoon. But that's not what everyone reported.
There was this one post, an account that got passed around a lot. This one user claimed they actually got through. They didn't hear a dead line. They didn't hear static. They claimed they heard a voice on the other end. A child's voice.
And that voice supposedly said just one single, chilling word: replace. And that's it. That's where the theory leaves you, with this huge unanswered question. Was The Replacements just a quirky kids show, or was it something else entirely? A message, a test, maybe even a warning, hiding in the one place nobody would ever think to look. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it?